Hello, everyone. My name is always Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be on podcast by tomorrow morning. If you're joining us live, please drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Lionel Sigauke, a chartered accountant who's been based in Dubai and the United Kingdom for the last 4 years. Lionel, thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, Uwais, on such a great platform.
Let's jump straight into questions. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? Maybe outside of work, who is Lionel Sigauke?
Okay, so Uwais, Lionel, it's a good thing that you're pronouncing it right. That's a very good thing because it's Lionel, as in Lionel Richie, not Lionel as in Lionel Messi. So catch the difference, same spelling, different pronunciation. I'm born and raised in Zimbabwe. I'm still Zimbabwean. I do not have any other citizenship elsewhere, although I wish that was the case sometimes. But we have to do with what's there. I was born in Harare, which is the capital city of Zimbabwe. Left home at 15 to a prison called Riverton, and that is where I kind of stumbled on accounting as a career. But even though I never had the dreams of becoming a CASA, even when I went to university, which I attended at Monash University, I did my undergrad there and I did my CTA. When I actually started my undergrad, I had other sites on other things that were not CASA, but something kept nudging. Like, I mean, you're walking. So back then there was accounting and economics, and then there was accounting, the professional route. Okay, so if you are doing accounting and economics, people will be like, people, if you walking around campus, people are like, you know what, which degree are you studying? And you're like, accounting and economics, and everyone is like, oh, the easy one. So that kind of motivated me to like say, okay, why are you guys saying I'm doing the easy course? Um, and then I kind of switched to the professional route, and I kind of followed the wind to be where I am today, which is CASA. I did my articles in Joburg, partly in Joburg and partly in Cape Town, at two different firms, small and medium-sized firms. And from there, soon after articles, a couple of months after articles, I got the opportunity to go to Dubai, and yeah, I've been in Dubai for quite a good number of time. Although I took a short break in between to go to the UK, and then I came back. So that's about me. I'm the first child of three boys in my family, and recently I became a father. So my boy
Congrats.
is like 2 months old now. So I mean, I'm enjoying the sleepless nights. If you're a father, you know the process. So yeah, that's
I
about me.
understand. And I like what you said there about, I mean, you were at a small and a medium-sized firm, and a lot of young professionals think if they go to small, medium-sized firms, they can't go overseas. So you prove that that's not the case.
Which is that's true. That's true. That's true. Ways. Although I would probably say that it's not that easy. I always thought, it was gonna be easy. You're now a CA, you have the designation, so no one really cares where you're coming from. But luckily, I did get a breakthrough. KPMG at that point was hiring, so one recruiter just contacted me and said, "Listen here, we are hiring in KPMG. Would you be considering a move to Dubai?" And it was such a shock to me because back then, um, I didn't apply for it, and you just get a weird call with the 971 number, and it actually was a missed call, and I had to call back, but no one picked up. So now
It's a lot.
yeah, and you're hearing all these scams, like people being scammed. we recruit you to Dubai, and then things happen. You disappear into the thin air. So I didn't actually take it seriously until the interview came through, and that's when I realized, okay, snap, this is actually happening. So yeah, I mean, I ended up in Dubai afterwards.
So you've answered it a little bit, but I want to jump into it a little bit deeper. So
Okay.
what is your main reason for deciding to work overseas? Because I mean, this is different from a secondment where you go for a few months to 2 years. A secondment is normally to taste something new and then come back. You've been there for 4 years. You've been there for quite a long time. What is your reasoning behind it?
Wes, that's a very long story, and there's a very, very, very long reason behind it. But if I was to cut it short, right? Um, when I finished, when I was doing undergrad, we tried to look for articles, okay? And back then, firms would say, you know what, get your CTA, and then maybe we might consider you because one, you are in a foreign country, right? And you're a foreigner, so they need to like consider a lot of things before they actually do hire a foreigner over a local. So I did my CTA, and you thought, listen, I passed my CTA first time and things are gonna be smooth. But boy, oh boy, I tell you what, it's a combination of two things. Monash University at that point in time were the pioneer stream, so it wasn't really well known in the circles, in the industry, and so we struggled. Not everyone did, but most of the foreigners that I did CTA with, they did struggle. I mean, I can give you a very good example is top of the class, right? He struggled to find articles, and he was the last amongst us who actually got a contract for articles. So that should tell you the bit of a struggle that we did. So back and fortunately, I got an opportunity at a small firm called Northplan, um, and this was after a very long struggle of applying and applying and applying and applying. And luckily, I enjoyed my articles there. And then I moved to Cape Town at uh, a medium-sized firm called Crow Howard. Um, and I had a vast experience. And whilst I'm actually speaking about articles at a small and medium-sized firm, I would actually want to point out something that most people think that we don't learn. We don't do much in small firms. There's that argument that, listen, yeah, you get more experience at a bigger size firm than you get at a small firm, and all that type of things. But I did a lot of things. I did AG work. I did consulting work. I did BE audits. I did external audits. I did audits of very exciting companies back then. And this is all within a medium and a small sized firm. Then it so happened then as I was approaching my articles, yeah, uh, I got to a stage where I was like, you know what, let me apply. And I actually got a job offer, but they hadn't signed it from the other side. And what happened is, as I handed in my resignation, and towards I'm following up with these guys. I need my job offer signed from you guys. I need to know what's going on. The next thing is the person who had sent me that job offer is not there, so they got me in touch with someone else. Yeah. Um, then someone else comes back and says, "Listen, yeah, I think there was a mistake because we didn't realize that you were a foreigner, so we didn't want to hire a foreigner at this point in time. We're not hiring foreigners." So that, I think, took me a step back because I mean,
Mm.
my firm had agreed to take
Yeah.
me on for some time, and you had already told them, "Listen, I'm not gonna stay on." And it took me a step back, and then I tried then to try, and I was like, you know what? I think that was the turning point where I was like, I think I need to move overseas, and events happened, and then I ended up overseas, and I've been enjoying it since then. I have no regrets, and yeah, that's my story.
Okay. Okay. And what was that change like in terms of moving from one country to a totally different country with different? I mean, I'm sure that they work different days in the week. It's just completely different. What was that change like?
Yeah. Okay. So the change was great for the first 2 weeks. Yeah. This is me. this, this is me. Like, I mean, KPMG really did take care of me. So the first 2 weeks, you land, okay, you get your concierge and your chauffeur with a sign with your name on it. You get into a 7 series, and you're like, okay, okay, I'm impressed. Uh, they take you to your hotel. You get to your hotel. Okay, you're like, okay, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. You know, the first 2 weeks go smooth. Then and then it was all training during those first 2 weeks, and everything was perfect. So during the transition into a different country was just so amazing. I'll probably say this. It was just so amazing because they took care of you. They did everything. You didn't have to worry about transport to and from work for the first 2 weeks. There was a bus that would carry you there. So you have that experience, and you're exploring, and you're like, okay, so this is the mall, this is Dubai Mall, this is the biggest mall in the world, and you are seeing all these lights and this bling, and you're like, then honeymoon phase passed, and I hit my first client. Oh my words, that was the biggest nightmare I've ever been on. I've never worked on a client like that, but it was my my worst experience from an audit perspective, but it was also one of the experiences that turned my career into something else. Why do I say this? It's because uh, things in Dubai work at a very, very, very fast pace, and I wasn't used to it. And you got to a client where the 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 the, the senior manager there was new. They just joined KPMG, so this is their flagship client that they need to prove themselves. You are new, and you're also trying to figure things out, because remember, you're coming from a small firm into a big firm with different processes and all that. And the majority of the team is new, and the client is a very big client. So we were working like very late hours. Like, I think I was working 8 to 11 hours,
Sure.
uh, almost on a daily basis. So that's one of the experiences that I got. But I learned very fast. The team was very supportive. You got to learn things much faster. Ever since then, everything ran smoothly. And in terms of culture wise, I mean, Dubai is filled with expats, so it's very easy to transition into the community. Everyone is a foreigner here. No one is like, listen here, this is my country. I've hardly worked with locals, to be honest. That's the honest truth. I've hardly worked with locals, people from
Quite
the
interesting.
UAE. so so yeah, I mean, it's been a great experience since then.
For the audience, we'll be responding to questions towards the end, but please add your questions to the comment section now so we don't miss them. So you said that, I mean, it's a very fast pace of work in Dubai, but so you've worked in audit in South Africa, in Dubai, in the UK. Other than the fast pace, is it similar? Is it compatible, or is it very different?
It is. It's not very different, but it is different. I think UK and South Africa are somewhat similar in the way they work. Although UK culturally, they have some slight differences in terms of how they conduct their work. You have a lot of tea breaks, and in those tea breaks, you there's a lot of collaboration within teams. You get to take rotations and things like that, which is not something that you'd find in Dubai. And then there's also one other issue that comes into play. In Dubai, we don't have a very heavy regulator which regulates audits. So in terms of how things are handled, that some things that might not fly in South Africa, or some things that might not fly in the UK, they might fly here. Although we have our own internal control processes that we try to improve and things like that. So the way the audit is done is more or less similar, but just slightly uh, different in terms of the intensity and things like that.
Okay, okay. So now when you in audit in Dubai, and now you move from audit to commerce. So you actually move. I mean, you're moving from an industry that you know to an industry that you don't, in a country that you don't know either. What was that? What was that change like?
It was. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I mean, my first role in commerce, I was. It was. It was mostly centered on financial reporting. Okay, like your IFRS and all those sort of things. And this is when I realized, maybe have I made the wrong decision? You have those doubts because you're used to audit where things are changing every day. And then you get into a role where from
Same
day
thing.
one of the month to the last day of the month, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And okay, fine. The only time it changes is either it's year end or half year end, where things kind of like move a bit much faster and more intense because now you need to clean up a whole lot of things in the books. So that was very draining. I mean, I was like, I was like, you know what? You need to endure this and see where it goes. Luckily, and very fortunate, uh, a year within that role, another role came up, which is in commercial finance. So then I was in corporate finance, and then I went into commercial finance, and things changed. Like totally, completely changed because now you're dealing in a role which is more business orientated. Forget about the IFRS. You throw away IFRS out of the books. Now you're dealing with things like
Business
pricing
problem.
strategy. Yeah,
Mm.
business problems. You're dealing with pricing strategies. You're negotiating terms and conditions with your customers, and these are the exciting things. And the other exciting part is I moved divisions. So in my first role, I was mostly locally based. You had your Middle East regions. This is what you were overseeing, and this is what you were dealing with. Now I moved into what is called duty free. So in the company, in the organization that I work, these are two different types of organizations, and they already run differently. In duty free, it's more global because you're dealing with your airports, your port shops, your ports, which is your ports, anything that is duty free centered. So it's more of a global perspective. So you have a broader view of what's going on in Europe, what's going on in South Africa, you know, um, what's going on in other parts of the markets, in Hong Kong, China, and things like that. So it was very exciting to see these things coming into play. And I mean, that was the best. When I look back at it, I think that was the best move that I ever did from moving from audit to industry.
Okay, no, that's good advice for someone sitting, a youngster sitting there. Maybe my next question is, what's next for you? Are you permanently based in Dubai? Are you thinking of moving to another country? Are you thinking of moving back to Southern Africa? If you're allowed to answer, let us know.
If I'm, it's a good thing that you said if I'm allowed to answer, because that's a very it's a very it's a very I mean, it's a very interesting question because the thing is, one thing's for sure: Dubai is not permanent. So there's never the sense of permanency in Dubai. Although there are people who've been born and raised here, but you don't get citizenship. So at some point, either you have to rely on your children to sponsor you if you don't have a business or anything of that sort, or you have to go back to your home country. So there's no sense of permanency. So based on that, you're always thinking future. Okay, what's going to happen next? It might not be in the short term. It might not be the next 2, 3, 5, 4 years. That question. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I mean, um, that's so it. But one thing's for sure. I'm very open minded. I'm not someone who's very rigid. So I'm very open minded. And the organization that I work for, it's like I said, it's very global. So you have opportunities to move to, like right now, I work with the Hong Kong team. So our head office is actually centered in Hong Kong. So that already shows you that there's an opportunity to be possibly moving to Hong Kong. That's one. Our global head office for the whole organization is based in the UK, so there are also opportunities there. So it's a variety of things, but I'm very open. I think that's the best answer I can give.
That's a brilliant answer. I think that adds a lot of value. And now I'm going to move to my favorite question that I like asking all my guests: is what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Um, sure. There's a lot of advices I might give my younger self, but I mean, if I was to say the most important thing is um, be not to be too hard on yourself. Uh, Let things work themselves out. Things will always work themselves out in a very good way. I mean, in hindsight, I mean, I don't regret my career path. But perhaps if you asked me 5 years, 4 years ago, I mean, I was sitting in a small firm and you're thinking, what's happening in the big four firm there? Maybe these guys look like they're enjoying themselves, type of thing. But I don't regret the experience that I ever actually get. And perhaps those are some of the things and the experiences that you need to not to be hard on yourself. I think that's the best advice I can give myself, my
Don't
younger
be too
self.
hard on yourself.
That is.
I like it. I like it. Let's move over to some of the questions from the audience. We've got a question here from Mildred, who says, given the chance to do it all again, would you choose a small firm over a big firm? And which one do you think would bring more opportunities? That's a good question. Loaded, but good.
Okay, so I mean, given the chance to do it again, if I had the same career path that I went through, I'd say yes, right? Um, but if I didn't know what the future holds, I probably would opt for the big four. And why is that? It's because the big four offers you some safety net when it comes to the amount of career choices that you probably have soon after articles. And the reason being, when you look at the large organizations, usually they hire from the big four. They don't hire from the listed clients. They don't hire from small firms. Okay, but and then and whoever thought that at some point I would actually be working in a big four firm. I was told by some recruiters that listen here, no big four is ever going to hire someone from a small firm. But I mean, look at me now. So
We know that's not true. Proof
we
is
know
in the
that's not
pudding.
true. So based on what I know now, I probably would do it all over again. And that's my stance as at the moment. And which one do you think? I think that I already answered in the sense that
Okay.
for Big Four, that name alone gives you some sort of safety net and the perception within the market to say that listen here, you might know something. Whether that's the case or not, that's a different story. But that's how the industry works, and that's the perception in the market. So yeah.
And we've got a comment here from Amar who says, so get rich in Dubai and leave.
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea, Amar. But I mean, things are changing in Dubai. Back then, 8 years ago, the salaries were much greater, and with more talent coming in, a lot of competition coming in. As the more supply you have,
Supply
the
demand.
cost. Exactly. So yeah, but I mean, possibly yeah. That summarize it all.
Another question from Mildred. What is the learning curve like from a medium-sized firm to a big four firm?
Okay, so not so in terms of okay learning curve, I wouldn't say there's a huge change. I mean, audit is audit. Listen, the cash balance is never gonna change. You need to know how to order cash. You need a bank confirmation based on the ISIS. Whether you're in small firm or a big four firm, you need a bank confirmation, and it's as simple as that. But in terms of processes and in terms of planning, perhaps that changes because from a small firm, yeah, you focus more on the work as opposed to the planning. Whereas this is something that I noticed in Big Four. there's a lot of work that goes into the planning phase, and as opposed to, maybe not as opposed to, but uh, if I was to give it a balance, in small firm it's 10% planning, 90% work. In big four it's like 40% planning, 60% work type of thing. So in terms of processes, and also you're dealing with larger organizations that have more transactions, so your sampling methods and your sampling tools, which have been developed over time, are different in a smaller firm than you have in a big firm. But apart from that, audit remains audit. The way you need to audit trade receivables is the same way you need to audit trade receivables. You're just auditing it in much more
Bigger numbers.
quantities. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
We've got a comment from Sitenji who says he's also from a medium firm and
Nice,
he's now in a big four firm. So it's definitely not the only one.
nice.
And we've got one more comment sitting from Dumisani. He says, thanks for the engagement and the time, Lionel. What would you tell applicants, especially people of color, in not fearing taking opportunities further afield?
I mean, just jump, just jump right at it. I'm someone who takes risks. Um, Whenever an opportunity comes, just jump at it. And just to tell you how much I'm a risk taker. I mean, I've done things like bungee jumping. My friends haven't. Uh, I mean, they tell you, listen, but when you're sitting right at the edge of the plane, you're like, listen, it's either now or never, and you just let go, and that's what you should do. Experience other things, and the if you travel abroad, specifically, it opens your mind to a whole lot of other things that you might never know. It's like this: a boy from a village and a boy from a city, the way they see things is different, and it's not because um, it doesn't come down to the individual, but what they're exposed to is different. If you play with a lot of rich friends, okay, you see how they do things. You see how they do things. It's also different when you play with a lot of friends that are perhaps not rich. If you play with a lot of business minded people, you know, you also get to develop certain habits and certain thought processes in that process. So I'd say travel abroad, see different cultures, explore as much as you can.
And we've got one more slip through here from Harshal, who says, what's the growth like in Dubai compared to UK and SA? That will be the last question that we take.
So I don't know if in growth, does that mean in terms of career or in terms of economy? Because
Give us both.
okay, I mean, let me tell you what. If it's in terms of economy, right? Um, the economy is UK is much more mature. Dubai is like still developing. So you see a lot of things going on. You see a lot of construction. You see a lot of activities taking place, and they moved at a very, very, very fast pace. And the dynamics between the two countries, it's already it's different. In the UK and in South Africa, you have parliament. So if you need to make a decision, it goes through various a huge red tape. Whereas in Dubai, you have rulers. I mean, if they need to do something, they do something, and they move at a very fast pace. A very good thing is if they need to bring in vaccines, they bring in vaccines. If they need to shut down their airports, they need to shut down their airports, and they can shut down the airports tomorrow. They don't need to consult anyone. That type of thing. So that's economic wise. And then, I mean, I don't think you can compare SA and UK and Dubai in terms of growth. SA, I don't want to comment on SA because that's a different story. But in terms of career, okay, um, you move much faster in your home country. You're accepted in your home place, so you definitely progress much faster. Um, Whereas in terms of in South Africa, that is, in Dubai, it's much slower in terms of progression. Um, there's a lot of dynamics that are involved there, and I would say progression wise, SA is the fastest, followed by UK, and then Dubai at the least bottom. Just to bring things into perspective, right? In the UK, we had a partner, and this is how she introduced herself. I became a partner at 27, and that took a lot of people by shock. Like, what the heck is happening in South Africa? How do you become a partner at 27? You know, how is that even possible? That's the type of things that happen in the UK. So, I mean, I don't know if that answers the question,
No, it
but
doesn't.
that's the best way I can answer it.
No, I appreciate it. It's a good way to end on that question. But any last few words from your side, or anything that we didn't discuss that you would like the audience to know?
Um, Perhaps maybe something that I actually didn't mention is I'm involved in a very interesting organization which does in which does a lot of things in terms of alleviating poverty in Cape Town through education. And maybe one thing, perhaps, sorry always to hijack your platform,
No,
but
go for it.
but I mean, if your followers could just go check out what's this Crystal House South Africa and what we do, you know, just drop in a like there, whatever way you can support. There's a lot of things that you could do there. That's one thing that I'd just probably just add.
Crystal House, it's on his LinkedIn profile if you want to check where to get it. Uh, a reminder to everyone: the show is live on YouTube and will be on the podcast tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and it's added value to you, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Final, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ace.
Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.